If you want this channel to be an echo chamber, you're in the wrong spot. And with that in mind, I thought it'd be interesting to find out who my viewers think will win this election. So if you want to see how that panned out, make sure to watch the video and enjoy. Hello and welcome back, and this is my 2024 election map prediction factoring in who my viewers think will win in this election. So I sent out a poll on my community post asking my viewers who they think will win in this election, and I got about 200 responses for each and every state for this 2024 election. So I'll see, according to my viewers, who will win. Will it be Harris or will it be Trump? Because as you saw in my last video, I lost some subscribers on it. It wasn't very popular, so I figured I let my viewers decide who will win instead of myself for a change. So if you want to see what your fellow viewers think, and if you want to participate in one of these in the future, make sure to like and subscribe for more. Alright, and now let's get into the video. And for some backstory, we have to note that Harris is leading in most of the polls in terms of the popular vote. And in many crucial swing states, we'll just go to like Georgia, for example, Harris is getting closer and closer to Donald Trump as the days go by. Additionally, she's been doing this in the Midwest as well, with the state that has this phenomenon the most being Wisconsin, where Harris went from losing to Donald Trump just a few months ago, or just less than a month ago, and is now leading Trump by 9 percentage points. So that is the background for this, but my viewers think that these polls are not necessarily accurate and that Trump will win this election, and I'll explain why they think this way. So, we're going to go by alphabetical order, starting with Alabama, and 93% of my viewers think Trump will win Alabama, and barring something crazy happening, Trump will win Alabama. Same will go with Alaska. Trump will win Alaska, though Alaska will be a little less close than Alabama. Remember, Alabama solidly went to Trump. Alaska did not go to Trump as solidly back in 2020. And now we get to Arizona. This is our first swing state, and the polls in Arizona are indicating that Trump will win, but just barely. Most polls do have Trump in the lead. The average does have Harris in the lead, but it does seem like these recent polls do have Trump in the lead, as well as the betting markets, they narrowly have Trump in the lead. 80% of my viewers think that Trump will win in Arizona. So we can say that Trump will get the state of Arizona pretty solidly. And this in line with McCain and Romney winning it by about 8 in 2008 and 2012. And basically my viewers think that it'll go back to that trend and go to Donald Trump in 2024. While I think it will be closer than this, I do think Trump will win in Arizona. So now we'll get to our next state. After we got through Arizona, Trump is now leading 23-0 against Harris. And in Arkansas, Trump is going to win as well, with 93% of my viewers thinking that Trump will win in Arkansas. Our next state is California, the first state that'll go to Harris, with 90% of my viewers thinking that Harris will win in California, and I think Harris will win in California. We saw California has gone to the Democrats in every single election since Bush back in 1988 against Dukakis. And, you know, almost every state went to Bush in that election. And in the recent past, California has gone to Harris time and time again. And with it being the biggest prize in this election and in most past elections, California will bring Harris 26 electoral votes above Donald Trump. Colorado will give Harris a few more electoral votes, being 10 specifically. While earlier some people did think Colorado could have gone to Donald Trump against Biden, almost no one thinks it'll go to Trump against Harris. Remember, it did go to Biden in 2020. It went to Clinton in 2016. Due to Biden's unpopularity just like a month ago, it could have gone to Trump. But now that Harris is rising in terms of favorability and practically every other metric, it does seem like Harris will win in Colorado. So now we have Connecticut, another state that will go to Harris. It is the first state in the Northeast that we are tallying. So now Harris leads 71-29. Delaware, Biden's home state, also goes to Harris in this election, and so does D.C. And honestly, I don't know why 10.8% of people said that Trump would win in D.C. This is honestly really stupid. They were probably just joking around, but regardless, Harris wins in D.C. That is where the White House is, that is the capital, and it goes to Democrats time and time again. I wouldn't be surprised if 90% of voters vote for Harris in D.C. So now we have Florida, which is yet another state that is considered to be a swing state, though it's falling out of that category. It has gone more and more Republican in the recent past, going to Trump by 3 in 2020, even though at one point it was favored to go to Biden. But now it does seem like Trump will win in Florida pretty solidly. The polls also indicate this, with Trump leading by as much as +8 in recent polls and as little as +2. He seems to be winning in Florida according to most, if not practically every poll that we have seen. So Trump takes home Florida, bringing himself 18 electoral votes behind Harris. But he starts catching up with Georgia, where 84% of my viewers said that he would win. Again, I don't think the number is that high. I think it's about 60% chance that Trump will win in Georgia. You can see most of these polls are even, and according to the betting markets, Georgia is also practically a coin flip. But given that it did go to Trump in 2016 by over 5 percentage points, I do think it has a solid chance of going to him in 2024. So Georgia goes to Trump, and he's 2 electoral votes behind Kamala Harris, making a comeback. And now we get to Hawaii, where Harris expands her lead by another 4 electoral votes. And now Idaho, where Trump cancels out those electoral votes from Hawaii, 4 electoral votes from Idaho. And now we get to Illinois, a state where its major city, Chicago, dominates the state, essentially bringing it to the Democrats, because most of the state does vote Republican, but in terms of population, Chicago holds most of the population in Illinois and brings it towards the Democrats. So that's why 81% of people do say it'll go to Harris in this election. And barring extreme circumstances, I do think Illinois will go to Harris, as it went to Clinton and it did go to Biden. Interestingly enough, it did shift a little bit to the right in 2020, and maybe Illinois in the future will shift a little more to the right, but definitely not enough that it'll even be in contention in this upcoming election. Now we have Indiana, which will go to Donald Trump, as well as Iowa, which also goes to Donald Trump. Trump will win in the state of Kansas. And now in Kentucky, Trump also wins, and now he's leading Harris 110 to 100 in this election. And Louisiana also goes to Donald Trump, so you can see he is filling up this map with red currently, leading Harris by 18 electoral votes. But the interesting thing is, even though Harris is not winning many states, the states she wins are densely populated. So she only needs to win essentially a few states, as she'll probably win the Northeast. She'll win the West Coast. She wins the densely populated areas, which is why Trump will win most of the landmass in the United States, but may not win this election. But you guys seem to think that Trump will win. It seems like 66% of voters think that Harris will win in Maine. And I do agree that Harris wins in Maine. And it is likely that Harris gets Maine's first and Trump gets Maine's second. And now in Maryland, 85% of you thought that Harris would win. I think it should be more like 95%, but I'll go with it. Massachusetts, you guys think Harris will win. That makes sense. In Michigan, 58% of you thought that Trump would win. And while I do think Michigan is getting closer and may even flip to Harris, you can see in these polls, Michigan is going to Harris. In the past, Michigan barely went to Biden. Michigan went to Trump over Clinton, and the polling error essentially in 2020, if that error is applied in 2024, then Trump has a chance of winning Michigan. And that might be your methodology for saying that Trump will win Michigan. 57% of you think that he'll get the state of Michigan. 77% of you think that Harris will win in Minnesota. 77% is all right, I guess. Mississippi, you guys say, will go to Trump, which makes sense to me. Missouri also will go to Trump, bringing Trump to 150 electoral votes. Montana also goes to Trump with its 4 electoral votes. Nebraska goes to Trump, but Nebraska's first and third go to Trump, but Nebraska's second does go to Harris. And now Harris is trailing by 23 electoral votes in this election. And now we get to our next state, which is Nevada, where Trump leads according to 78% of you. And honestly, I do think this is about accurate. Trump will likely win in Nevada. He's been leading in most recent polls. Even though the betting markets do say it's essentially a coin flip, I do think that Trump will win in Nevada, and it offers 6 electoral votes, bringing him to 164. He's 106 votes away from winning this election. But Harris, she picks up some states here, one being New Hampshire, which historically has gone to the Democrats, has gone to the Democrats in every election since 2000, and it will likely go to Harris in this next election. New Jersey is also going to Harris. You think it will be closer than in the past, which does make sense to me, but it still goes to Harris. That makes sense. New Mexico will also go to Harris. New Mexico in 2016 would have had a chance of getting close to going to Trump, but Gary Johnson, the former governor, was running, and he was elected as a Republican, so he likely took votes away from Trump, and since then, New Mexico has not been really that close, but perhaps New Mexico will go to Trump in 2024 if some crazy circumstances happen. New York also goes to Harris. That makes sense. 90% of you think North Carolina will go to Trump. That honestly makes sense to me. North Carolina is going to Trump in terms of the polling. I do think North Carolina will be closer than this suggests, especially considering the betting markets only have Trump winning it with 62% certainty. But North Carolina will still likely go to Trump in this upcoming election. So will North Dakota, obviously, as well as Ohio, the home state of J.D. Vance. Oklahoma as well will likely go to Trump. However, Oregon likely goes to Harris. That makes sense. Earlier, some people thought there was a chance of Oregon going to Trump when Biden was running, similar to states like Colorado and New Mexico. But it does seem like since Biden won it by 16 points, Clinton won it by 11, that Oregon will go to Harris in this upcoming election. And I don't really think that'll change. The city of Portland has a large influence on the state, like Chicago and Illinois, etc. So it does seem like Oregon will go to Harris in this election. And now we get to Pennsylvania, likely the most important state in this election. And Pennsylvania offers 19 electoral votes, and it has been polling for Donald Trump until recently, where it has started to poll for Harris in almost every poll. But it does seem like 73% of you think that Pennsylvania will go to Donald Trump in this election. And then Rhode Island, you guys say, will go to Harris. That makes sense. South Carolina goes to Trump. That makes sense. South Dakota goes to Trump. That makes sense. Tennessee goes to Trump. Texas goes to Trump. I remember back in 2020, people were scared that Texas would go to Biden, but I never agreed with those people. It'll go to Trump in 2024. Probably not by margins that it went to people like Bush, etc., but it'll still go to Trump, and that's really all that matters. And Trump now wins this election 289 to 198, but there's still some states remaining if you want to see the actual margin he wins by. And now Utah also goes to Trump. Vermont goes to Harris. Some jokers said that Vermont has a 16% chance of going to Trump, but that's just not true. Virginia is going to Harris. That makes sense. Some people also thought Virginia could go to Trump. There was a poll back like a month or two ago that said that Virginia would go to Trump. A few of them actually. But it does seem like now Virginia is going to Harris, with the betting markets having it at 88% chance of going to Harris. So it's not like absolutely 100% chance Virginia will go to Harris, but there is a large chance of it happening. But there's also a small chance that Trump actually wins in Virginia. Now Washington also goes to Harris. West Virginia goes to Trump. That makes sense. Considering it went to Trump by one of the largest margins back in 2020, it'll go to Donald Trump. Wisconsin, 66% of you say that it'll go to Trump. I do think Wisconsin has a better chance of going to Trump than Michigan, but honestly, it doesn't seem like Michigan will go to Trump. And the polls have been going to Harris in Wisconsin, but you guys seem to think there will be a large polling error, and that's why it will go to Trump. The betting markets say it will go to Harris, but you guys seem to think it goes to Trump. And finally, in Wyoming, you guys think it'll go to Trump, which makes sense since it did have the largest margin of going to Trump back in 2020. Out of the states, so it does seem like Trump will win in Wyoming. So now we have our final electoral map. Today, I'm going to do my election update segment. So the most important election update happened in Minnesota, specifically in the House's 5th district, where squad member Ilhan Omar actually won her primary, being the first member of the squad to do so after the other two actually lost their primaries, with them being Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman. So it does seem like Ilhan Omar is essentially solidifying her base in her district, which comprises of Minneapolis. As last time she ran, it was a lot closer than this time. She won with 56% of the vote, and it does seem like she will hold on, especially in the general election and possibly in future elections. So with that done, we now go to our next state, which is Vermont, because none of the other races in Minnesota are that important. But in Vermont, Phil Scott, the Republican incumbent, I know you're probably surprised by that, the incumbent Republican governor will likely win this election against his opponent, but practically no other Republicans will win in Vermont. And now in Connecticut, this Republican is probably going to lose to Chris Murphy. And finally, we have Wisconsin, where some guy essentially pretty much bought the Republican primary. He spent a ton of money winning the primary, and he's up against Tammy Baldwin, and it is likely that Baldwin will win, especially considering she's the incumbent, but he still stands a chance in this election. So there's your election update. If you want more of these, make sure to comment. I like the election updates. So back to the outro. If you want more of these, more of the ones where I factor in your input and not just mine, make sure to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.